One wrong stroke, and the papyrus was ruined. That was the first rule scribes learned at the Library of Alexandria. The second was that a single scroll cost more than their monthly ration of oil and grain combined. The scribe worked on the third bench from the north wall, where the limestone blocks held the afternoon heat until midnight. His name was Hekatontarchos, a Macedonian slave purchased by Ptolemy II for 30 drachmas and assigned to the library scriptorium. He was 34 years old and had copied the Iliad 11 times. This would be his 12th. The lamp before him was a simple clay saucer, no larger than his palm, filled with Egyptian castor oil mixed with 1 part frankincense to keep the wick from smoking. The wick itself was twisted linen, replaced every 4 hours. It burned at a measured rate, 1 finger width of oil per hour. The oil cost 3 obols per day, deducted from his stipend. If he worked past the 3rd watch, he paid for it himself. His copy of Iliad Book 16 lay unrolled to column 7. The master scroll, borrowed from the library's sealed collection, rested on a cedar stand to his left. It was 240 years old, copied in Athens before Alexander crossed into Asia. The papyrus had darkened to honey brown, but the letters remained sharp. Attic script, no word breaks, written with a reed cut at a 30-degree angle. Hekatontarchos' job was to produce an exact duplicate for the library's reading room, where it would be checked against 2 other versions, collated, and finally approved as the standard text. He worked in the smallest hand permitted, 21 lines per column, each line exactly 22 letters long. The columns were 8 fingers wide, separated by margins of 3 fingers. Deviation meant scraping the papyrus with a pumice stone and rewriting. More than 3 errors in a scroll triggered a beating. More than 5 a deduction of wages. The room held 47 other scribes, most slaves, a few free men earning 6 drachmas a month. They sat in rows, each with his own lamp, each working from a different scroll. The air smelled of hot oil, papyrus dust, and the faint ammonia of urine jars kept under the benches for soaking reeds. No one spoke. The only sounds were the scratch of pens, the soft hiss of lamps, and the occasional cough from a scribe who had inhaled too much carbon black. Hekatontarchos dipped his pen. The ink was mixed each morning. Soot from burnt almond shells, gum arabic from Nubia, water from the Nile filtered through linen. Too thick and it clogged the reed. Too thin and it bled through the papyrus. The head scribe tested it daily by writing on a scrap and folding it. The ink cracked. The batch was rejected. He copied letter by letter, not word by word. This was critical. The library's director, Zenodotus of Ephesus, had decreed that scribes must copy mechanically to avoid introducing improvements. 2 generations earlier, Athenian scribes had taken liberties with Homer's text, adding lines, smoothing meter, changing dialect. The library's mission was to strip those accretions away and recover the original. That meant copying what was there, not what made sense. Column 7 contained Patroclus's request to Achilles for armor. The master scroll had a disputed line, "Give me your arms and I will wear them." Some versions added for a time, others omitted the line entirely. This scroll included it without qualification. Hekatontarchos copied it exactly, though he knew that next week, a senior editor would annotate the discrepancy in the margin with a tiny gamma, linking it to a commentary scroll that weighed the evidence from 3 other manuscripts. His reed pen, a calamos cut from a Nile marsh plant, had a split nib that wore down after 600 lines. He had 3 spares in the leather roll beside his inkpot. The reeds were harvested in July, dried for 6 months, then cured in ash and water. A good reed lasted a day. A bad one snapped mid-stroke, ruining the papyrus. The papyrus itself came from the Delta, from a royal monopoly at Sinopolis. Each sheet was made by laying pith strips in a grid, pounding them with a marble mallet, then polishing with a shell. The library bought only first-grade sheets, 12 fingers tall, no joins visible in the writing area. A single flawless sheet cost 2 drachmas. A full scroll required 20 sheets, glued with wheat paste, sanded smooth, and dusted with gypsum. Hekatontarchos had already ruined 2 scrolls this month, one from a lamp spill, one from an ink blot. The cost had been added to his debt. He reached line 18 of column 7, and his mother heard him from the CS depths. The master scroll's epsilon was cramped, squeezed by the scribe to fit the line. Hekatontarchos copied the cramped letter, then checked his work by reading backward, letter by letter, to catch visual errors. The method worked. He had never been beaten for mistakes. Once, a free scribe named Demetrios had miscopied a critical line in the Odyssey, turning wind-dark sea into wind-dark earth. The error had slipped past proofreaders and reached the library's shelves. When a scholar discovered it, Demetrios was flogged and docked 20 drachmas. 3 weeks later, they found him hanging from a ceiling beam in the slave quarters. The rope had been braided from papyrus scraps. Hekatontarchos worked until the 4th watch, when the oil ran out. By then, he had completed column 9. He sanded the ink with a flat stone, rolled the scroll, and tied it with a linen cord. Tomorrow, the lector would read it aloud, while 3 other scribes followed along in their own copies, checking for errors. If it passed, it would be marked with the library's seal Macedonian star and transferred to the public hall. If it failed, he would start again. He blew out the lamp. Smoke rose black for a moment, then vanished into the darkness where 47 other men sat copying, each with his own pool of light, each preserving one small piece of a poem that had already survived 400 years of war, famine, and error. The library held 700 copies of the Iliad. No 2 were identical. So the work of sorting truth from mistake would take another 3 generations. By then, all these scribes would be dead, their names recorded only in the payroll tablets, errors if any preserved forever in the scrolls they left behind. Outside, Alexandria slept. Inside, the lamps burned on.